tuning in to Watching the World. We had an exciting day in court today, day 21 of week 5 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Today, we are privileged to have a legal analyst. Yes, indeed, you heard me correctly. We have a legal analyst by the name of Candace Kelley, and she's going to be coming to the stage to tell us all about this trial.
Hey,
Welcome,
Mel.
welcome.
It's you again, Mel. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's me again, right? Doing quite well.
That's
How
good.
are
That's
you?
good. I'm doing well. I feel like we are coming upon verdict watch very soon. And I know that's what we're going to get into, but I've been thinking about, all right, what is verdict watch going to look like? That's a lot of waiting. But any case, I know you were in court today. I actually did not make it to court, but when that happens, of course, I read everything that happens, from the transcripts and whatnot. But more of Jane. So let's go.
All right. What do you think about the whole concept of the prosecution calling less witnesses now?
Yeah, I think there eventually comes a point where if you give people too much, especially after someone like Jane, who a lot of people have said, and you can probably attest to this, it's been a long time. It's been a long time, people are getting a little bit kind of drowsy in terms of her testimony. And I think that the prosecution has made the decision that, you know what, we've made our point enough. So there's no sense in overkill, because in that could potentially dilute everything that has already been happening. In fact, I look at Jane and Brianna a little bit, and I think about it in that way. Did they go too far and dilute other people's testimonies? I think they cut it off with Brianna, but I think Jane has gone very, very long to make a lot of points that you've had to really do a scavenger hunt for, like to try to find out what exactly is her reason for being there. So,
All right. Is this a sign of dominance, confidence from the prosecution?
well, when you get to that point, you want to make sure that you don't lose your jury, right? And you can attest to the fact that a lot of the people who are on the jury, I mean, they're getting a little bit antsy, just like we are in the gallery. I'm not sure if it's a question of we're dominating, we're winning, as opposed to let's not lose the jury, because that's really all that's important here, right? It's not the reporters, it's not the judge, it's not Sean, it's the jury. Like, what are they thinking? What are they doing? We have to cater to them, because within a matter of days, they're going into deliberations. So let's not, I don't want to say waste their time, but let's not push it. Remember, they've been on here for weeks. They go home and they have family obligations the way that you and I have, except they haven't been taking, they've been taking copious notes and have a man's life in the palm of their hands. So it's very, very heavy. At this point, I'm looking at the jury. I'm saying, I think they've got it. I think we've made our point. Let's not overdo it. There's no need to go an extra week with more witnesses that are making the same point that other witnesses have made.
Very nice. What do you think about Jane as far as her testimony with the prosecution versus being cross-examined?
I think that, like many of the witnesses, the cross-examination and the purpose of it is to impeach the witness and catch them in a lie, or say, you're not telling the truth. And I think that in terms of this particular witness, there were a lot of open doors to go in. Why? Because she had so many texts. Even today, the texts were just confusing. Why? Because she was confused. But if you don't have that sorted out in your head, then the jury's going to be confused. That's where you have to go back to the testimony of Dawn Hughes in order to really make sense of this. See, she was the forensic psychologist. Like, what was going on here? Today, they went through just a whole heap of emails of text and testimony saying that she was the one who set up all of these prostitutes. And with the same token, she seemed to be happy about it. But with the same token, she seemed to be upset about it. And with the same token, she seemed to be, excited about it. And then on the other side, we just go back and forth, back and forth. So if I'm feeling a little confused and like, well, now, Jane, what are you doing there? I would imagine that the jury is trying to figure it out too. Though I do think that she has made the point that the MO of Sean Combs was to hire prostitutes and pay for them. even though she was often the one, or I think almost 100% of the time, doing the financial transaction, that's okay. It doesn't matter if Sean Combs' hands have not touched the money, he would still be the one that would be in charge. So I would say that she is not someone that I think if the prosecution were going to look back, maybe they would not have put her on the stand. I mean, are you clear on what she was doing and all, like each step of the way? I mean, there was just a lot of flip flop.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like this whole thing about, because when we go back to 2 years ago, she had testified how with her emails and her text messages, she was telling him, I don't want to sleep with strangers, So I felt like that was strong. But then we get to this point under cross-examination, and she's saying she's making love to a ex-worker. Like, it's like the Twilight Zone to me, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
hard to
is.
wrap my mind around it. Like, what's going on here?
Right, right. I mean, a lot of people have told me, and I don't know, especially what your male friends say, right? And girlfriends too, but the girlfriends I've talked to, they have said, "Mm, it sounded like she really wanted to be in a relationship with someone who just didn't want to be monogamous. But she did all she can, full throttle, full hearted, to be this last woman standing." And I'm not saying that was it, but I am saying that I could see how a juror would be as confused as she was and you and I are, and trying to figure out, well, what exactly were you, what was going on? What was going on? I mean, the introduction of the violence again showed the MO. The prostitution showed the MO. But on the other hand, as the defense is saying, weren't you just a girlfriend in a bad relationship that didn't get out and could have? I think that is something left to the jury at this point. She's not one of those Capricorn Clark for me, like she nailed it. She nailed it at almost 100%. I don't think that Jane has done that.
You know what I noticed about Jane? It seems like the only time she got upset about the whole, what do they call it, debauchery nights, is
Yes.
basically when she would go on Instagram and see him with another female, such as Gina or Young Miami.
And let
Other
me
than
tell
that,
you,
she was ride or die. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, she had a lot of a testimony that was very emotional. And what you bring up is very important because during opening statements, the defense said just what you said, that this is a story about domestic violence and jealousy. And even
Right.
with the Mias, even with the Capricorn, right? They tried to say, "Oh, didn't you tell Diddy that you had a crush on him?" And then they brought up they tried to make jealousy this continuous thread through it all. Did it work? I don't know, but I think that what you said speaks to the point that with this particular witness, that's something that kind of rose to the top for you, at least. And you and I, as people who are, that were reporting on it, we are the people who could be jurors too. And if that's sticking out in your mind, I think that's something that the defense would see as a win.
Right. What do you think, as far as all of the victims so far, who do you think is the strongest one?
Well, I would say that, well, Cassie and Mia would be, in terms of all the victims that have been presented, Cassie and Mia. Cassie was the one who, listen, I don't know if they would have put her first had she not been pregnant. But the fact that she went first was just a good grounding foundational point for everybody to kind of trickle off of, right? The branches. She was this tree trunk, and then everybody else was the branches. I think I've said that too before. But she was a very good witness, even in her, I loved him, I didn't love him, and yes, I paid for these male escorts, and yes, I wanted some, and yes, I was asking for new pictures. Even she was more decisive and definitely more persuasive that she did not want to do it. At some point, it changed, and she made a very, very good witness. And it didn't hurt that she was pregnant too, because you get this notion that, hey, listen, she did want to do something else other than this, because she went ahead very quickly, got married, and did do something else. So I think that she still, for me, would be the biggest kind of foundational point for me where all of this branches off of.
Okay, very good. So they had a big argument today as far as the prosecutors and the defense go, basically saying that she was only building her narrative to support the immunity that they had given her.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, let's hope that she didn't do that. What the risk is saying is that, you know what, she's lying. They're basically saying she's
Ooh.
lying on the stand, and that they gave her immunity. And when you have immunity, you have to testify. But what they're saying is that, you know what, she's just giving enough, and she's just doing enough in order to get through the fact that she can claim this immunity on the other side. That she's not being consistent, that she's lying, that she's not making any sense actually. So, I'm hoping she's not doing that. However, let's think about whether or not she has an interest in all of this. To me, she seems like an interested party, right? This is what they call an interested party. Someone who gets on the witness stand and they say, you know what, you have an interest. And we know, what is she getting paid, Mel? She's getting paid, right, $10,000 for the rent, and her attorney's fees are being paid. I would say that again, that's one of those things that just sticks out to me, that there's something that may not be particularly genuine about this. Is it a conflict of interest that Sean Combs is paying? You could argue either way. I mean, that would be up to a judge to decide. But in terms of the law, there are no laws broken. He is paying. But that does not look good. That does not look good at all. If I were a juror, I'd be so confused. Like, why are you why are you here if he's paying? And then what is the outcome on Sean Combs's side that he is getting out of this? Like, why is this? What is this, an automatic payment he never cut off? Why is he still doing this? It just again leaves confusion.
Yeah, they're also saying basically that her story is being beefed up because she read Cassie's lawsuit,
Hmm.
and I guess they're trying to say maybe she has ulterior motives.
Yeah, and she did allude to that fact that when she read Cassie's lawsuit, that she was triggered in a way and realized, wait a minute, I'm going through that, and I actually felt that there was something wrong, and I am a victim. Cassie's lawsuit, she said, made her realize that she really kind of was a victim with a lead that could have a legal stake in it. All right. So with that in mind, all I say is this, that she was a victim. If she felt like she was, that's her right to move in that way. She's not someone that's suing Sean Combs right now, from what I remember. But I think it's okay that legally she realized that what she was feeling wasn't right, and that there was a legal course of action that she could take, or that the fact that somebody else took it and she saw the exact same, mirroring facts, that she realized this really isn't right. And I know now that it isn't, because Cassie's filing a lawsuit. Not only that, but she filed a lawsuit and he paid within 24 hours. So that really spoke a lot.
Yeah, speaks volumes. Tell everybody about you, who you are, and where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me at Candace Kelley TV. That's on Instagram. And I am a professor. I teach the law. I teach media law, and I also serve as a defamation expert on various cases, similar to the types of experts that you've heard in this trial, except they are forensic psychologists. I do that in the same realm, but in the world of defamation. So I always like to say that I really like to truncate the law, make people understand it so that they know their rights. They're not afraid of their rights. I always tell my students this: if you feel like there's something wrong, then there's probably a legal course of action that you can take in order to make sure that you're made whole if someone has put you in a position where you feel less than.
Okay, guys. So you see here at Watching the World, I bring you people that operate on a high level, and I think it speaks volumes. So hit the like button, share, subscribe. There's a lot of people that would love to hear from a legal analyst, just as Candace. Let's go through the comments.
All right, sure, let's do that.
Bordock says, "Hey y'all." Coco says, "Hi."
Hey.
It was very confusing. She was talking about, that's when we started off talking about what happened in court today. As far as I think she made that comment when we were speaking about reducing the witnesses, so that was confusing.
Yeah.
Deborah says hi, Mel and Candace. So shout out to Deborah.
Hey, Deborah. Hey, hey.
All right. Coco says, I just wonder why the defense said they didn't know she was a co-conspirator. They said they weren't happy.
She said that they didn't know who, that Jane was a co-conspirator.
I guess so. She didn't put the name in there, I assume, because we're talking about Jane.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, I read something. So in these types of cases, there potentially are many co-conspirators. We just haven't heard about it in that way, or I read something and they referred to KK as a co-conspirator. On paper, they are not, because they're leaving the door open for deals to be made, for the door to be open for witnesses to speak. And again, in terms of the crime boss loophole that this particular law, RICO, was created for, they got who they wanted, which was Sean Combs. So co-conspirators could be abound everywhere, okay? We're just not seeing them on paper, and they are not the person that the prosecution really wants to go after. They want to go after Sean, and that's the goal. But you can definitely have sealed indictments. You could have co-conspirators that aren't necessarily named. That often happens in federal cases.
Okay. Coco also says the thing is she spoke to Sean Combs up until recently.
She did. She spoke to Sean Combs up until recently, very recently. I mean, she was with him up until the day that he was arrested last year in September at that hotel. In fact, he was preparing for another freak off with whom I don't know, but we know that that's what the evidence showed and the pictures showed that we saw in all of the exhibits. Listen, as I said, this was someone who really wanted to be his girlfriend. Isn't that something you get, Mel? I mean, she really was trying. Sean, I like making love to you. I love you. I love time with you. I want to be there for you. She still has love for him. She really, really is in love with him. I would say that. I would say that she is in love with him. Wished him well. I don't think that's unusual for someone to be in that situation, even if they're not in a Sean Combs. Think of all the relationships of people that you know who should be done with that relationship, but they still stay. I don't think that's necessarily indicative of anything than a bad relationship.
Right. Tenny on cross-examination, I'll give you an example. She'll say something like, well, Jane, it was your idea to call Paul or whoever the guy is. And she'll say, I would do anything for my partner. So my partner's happy. That's her common answer.
Still referring to him as her partner. She would do anything for him. Again, is she someone who's brainwashed, as we heard Mia talk about? Is she someone who is trauma bonding, as the psychologist talked about? I just don't know. She did not make a clear case for herself.
Yeah, it's hard to decipher. Bordox for now says she says she loves Diddy.
Yeah, she says she loves him. And this is something that the jurors are going to have to figure out. She says she loves him. Does that weigh any one way or the other? Think about the people who you might love, who you really can't stand parts of, or, but you still might have a little love for them. I'm not sure if just because she says she loves him that means anything. I mean, just think about all the relationships that you've had and loved through someone who just wasn't good for you, people out there, whether it's a spouse, a boyfriend, a mom, a dad, or grandma, an aunt, who you're just like, I got love for them, but oof, they do some things, right? So I'm not holding that against her. I'm not holding that against her.
Right. Coco says they say the defense didn't want those prior texts shared, and now they might be.
Now, which text is she referring to? A lot of
You're
text.
talking about text DX331. It's a shame I know what the exhibits are. Right?
There you go. There you go.
I've been sitting in court too long, but basically those are the exhibits that show her frame of mind, state of mind. They're the notes that came from her diary that says that Diddy
Oh,
was a pathological liar. Yeah,
that's right. And that's where they were trying to introduce that fraud element that you and I have talked about in the past.
exactly. But I want
Right.
to tell Coco, you see how sharp I came out with that answer about what your question was. So give me a like. That'll give me a little point. I'm just joking.
Right. Give you
Uh,
like, if you calling off exhibit numbers, you might as well sit with the
uh,
15 lawyers that are up there.
hey,
You
I could
know,
be a heavy hitter just like you sometimes. You catch me on
oh
a good
no.
day.
Oh no, absolutely. Mel first in line, Mel. I know about you. Um, yeah, they were unable to prevent those from going in because, and they did, those particular texts that she sent to herself acted as a diary. What can I say? They made it in. It showed her state of mind and what she thought kind of contemporaneously in that moment, which counts for a lot. People have been, and everybody in the court referring to them as like some type of a diary. And that's a memorialization of how you felt at the time. A very big deal that the defense was not able to prevent those from getting in. However, as we've been talking about, she's problematic for a whole host of other reasons.
All right. Coco says, I like your point of view, Candace, and she gave you a heart.
Why, thank you. I thank you. I thank you.
You have your own fan club going. I got time today says good evening. Shout out to you. D
Hey,
Hood Realer says prosecutors or defense, who's winning so far in your opinion? In y'all opinion?
you want to go first? Or you
I
want me to
think
go
so far I have the prosecutors at 60 and I have the defense at 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when the defense go on, that number could change. I thought the prosecutors would be at a 80 or 90 because it's the government, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm at 70-30, 70 for the
Oh,
prosecution.
okay.
Again, like you said, we haven't heard from the defense and their witnesses, which will be very interesting to see who, you know, kind of comes out as everything is shaken out. But I also think that for the witnesses that have diluted some other people's testimony, they haven't diluted it enough for the Regina Clarks, the Capricorn Clarks, for the Garcia, Eddie, for the Eddie Garcias to go away. I mean, we've got the bribes, right? We have a bribe. Eddie Garcia was bribed. The mother was extorted, right? So when I think about that, I'm like, yeah, we're at 70. You know what I'm concerned about? I'm concerned that I'm concerned about jury nullification. I'm concerned that the jurors are going to say, you know what? All of this is hogwash. I'm not going for it. I don't like it. It smells bad. And they have the right to do that. They have the right to say, I think this was overcharged. I do not think that this was an applicable law for this particular situation. This was just a guy who had a crazy sex life. And then in that case, that's not guilty. So I was slightly concerned about that. However, that sex trafficking, the prostitution across state lines, you can't get around. But bottom line, 70-30, we'll see what happens when the defense gets their folks on the stand.
Yeah, Brian Steele, and I'm gonna tell you that Westmoreland, there's some heavy hitters, in my opinion.
They really are. I mean, and remember, she was one of the last ones added, but she comes in there, she has no pretense. She gets right to business.
Yeah, I'll definitely be following a lot of her cases because she's very entertaining, but on top of her game, kind
Yeah.
of like you, very on top of the game.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Coco says Tenny said it was in the tweets. Not sure what exactly that was. And then Miss Lish. Oh, thanks for coming back. You guys are on the regular. I appreciate you guys. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
She says she is Lululemon, delusional, I guess.
Yeah, but Jane.
Yeah.
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 I get it. I mean, I get it. And I don't know, for people who aren't in the courtroom, Mel, what do you think about her disposition? Because her words, if you just read them, are stronger than what I think her disposition is in court.
I
Do
think
you?
she's a writer. I think she's a
Mhm.
writer, and I think she's writing a story. She had me at first when she told, just like everybody else, when they tell under prosecution, they kind of capture you, especially they tell these stories about Diddy kicking doors down, almost
Right.
like a movie, almost like a movie. But then under cross examination, they start to fall apart because the line of questions are just too commanding, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and and it changes things. And even see it with people I'm sitting next to, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, she's acting, you know, or this is a
Yeah.
scam. This is a shakedown for Diddy for money. But again, I've been sitting in court every day. And on the other hand, I see the prosecution laying down some heavy charges. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
see how you can get around it. I don't see how anybody could get around it.
I
So
don't.
I'm very interested in seeing, how this is going to develop.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Do you think she's been on the stand for too long?
Far too long. I mean,
Yeah. I
they're
just.
they're
Ooh.
building her a bedroom in the back or something like that. She's just up there too long. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, ooh. Can we get to it? I mean, yeah. It just seems like overkill. That's all. That's all. It's like
yeah,
it's like someone. Yeah.
it's just like the longer you get to know someone, you start to see right through them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they should have just
Exactly.
had her up there enough to, if they wanted to make a good impression, just have her up there enough to state her claim and get her out of there. 4 days is way too much to see her, and she's being combative. And today we ended early, and they called the sidebar,
Uh-huh.
but she wasn't cooperating. So is she going to come back tomorrow and do the same thing? So that
Really?
could
Now, in what ways wasn't she cooperating? Was she not
She
answering the
was
question?
agitated. She was agitated. Remember yesterday when she brought up young Miami?
Yeah.
That whole thing sparked off. So
Yes.
today she came back up with the whole contentious thing. So by the end of today,
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't having it. She wasn't really trying to answer questions. A lot of people in the audience of the courtroom
Mm-hmm.
was saying that she's actually pushing for Diddy's side. So they
Hmm.
think she's like there, but her main role is to sway it toward Diddy. That's what people in the audience were saying, and I was amazed to hear that. But
Yeah.
listen, it's interesting just to hear all the different interactions and so forth.
No, it is. It is. And as we said, we do have a lot of people. I don't know if you're speaking to folks in the public or, but they love Diddy. They love Diddy, and that's why a lot of them are there.
A lot of people love Diddy, and
Yeah.
it's just so much questions around the case now that people are, more vocal about their stance for Diddy.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk
Despite,
about juror number 6? What
yeah,
happened?
juror number 6.
What is going on with juror number 6, and why does the prosecution, from what I understand, think that she is not presenting with candor or something in that vein?
Not sure. I'm not sure what the legit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the defense said, oh no, she's black, and y'all are trying to get rid of her because she's black. And of course, the defense doesn't like that because the defense thinks more black people, more yeses for Sean to go home, translation. So of course they don't want anybody black to leave the jury. And I don't know, but that's for a couple of days that's been brewing. Truth is, you can remove a juror, and that's why you have alternate jurors. But that's a lot of discretion that the judge would have to use. And I have no idea what the prosecution is talking about, but I think that is we're going to hear about that during the week.
right. Well, this has been awesome. We've just hit our 30 minutes, and I don't want to keep you all night. Um,
That is no problem. I know this goes again tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be in court. So we shall see. Thank you, number one Mel in line. I gotta look for you. When I
all
see
right,
that
I
hat, I
appreciate
know
it.
that's the beginning of the line.
Yeah, tell everybody that just came in the room how to find you once more.
All right. Follow me at Candace Kelley TV. on Instagram. Mel, I need you to be on a panel for me, a live panel with an audience that's coming up. I'm going to send you that invite. I don't know if you'll make the track over to New Jersey, but hopefully you will trek it on over. I'm going to send
Of course, that's the least I could do.
Yeah, I want you to be on this panel. We're going to have some real people who want to come out and hear from folks like you, who's everywhere. You're everywhere. So
Yeah. People are starting to recognize me in weird places, and it's kind of strange to me. But anyway,
yes,
it is what it is, you know.
All right, sir. I will see you tomorrow in court.
All right, and maybe we'll come back and give the people some more.